the Daily Talk Show, episode 583.
Happy Monday. What's happening, guys? What's going on?
You had a bit of an indoor fountain at your house?
Yeah, just some waterworks. Yesterday, the storm hit in Melbourne. I mean, where else? I think it only hit in the suburb and the surrounding suburb to me and nowhere else. I got a text message yesterday from my insurance company, my car insurance company, saying there's going to be hail in your suburb. Make sure you put your car underneath or something like that. Maybe my insurance policy doesn't cover hail. That's why it's telling me. I can't remember.
That's great, isn't it?
But my car was inside and I was like, oh, okay. And then I'm doing meal prep in the kitchen. And then it's like, holy shit, it's raining. Oh, my God, it's hailing. And then all of a sudden, I had my headphones on, so I was a bit disorientated. I just felt water and I was like, oh, what's – when you can't hear what's going on. Like I had a podcast on.
What were you listening to?
Bill Maher and Joe Rogan. And then I look up and there's a fountain. The downlight is just water pouring out of it. The light was still on. I'm like, oh, fuck. I had to take a photo of it. The light was still on when I took a photo of it, which everyone pointed out to me. And I was like, mate, it was too quick. I had to quickly get evidence, and then I got the bucket, and then I turned the light off. And the light didn't blow, which was great. They're LED lights, so maybe there's a difference there. But, yeah, there must have been something wrong with the roof. I think there's a tile missing, and there was so much water. Mate, our place isn't the problem. I was worried for next door because they've been flooded 4 times. And when I say flooded, I mean the whole house filled with water. I hear in the driveway, I thought it was a wave, but it was the guy's Hilux or the big car.
Or was it his brother getting Maccas?
He comes in and the whole driveway was filled with about a foot of water. And then he gets up and he's like banging on the door trying to get his brother to open the garage. And they had to open the front door and the garage. And when they opened the garage, about a foot of water that had piled up just started flowing out down the driveway. His tools were all in the shed and they were floating away. I was fucking grabbing the tools.
Is there a better way of doing it? Like if there's all that water, you know that when you open the door, the water's going to go in.
No. You open the garage so it flows through. Basically, there's no other option because it's like the house is in the stream and the back door is upstream. The garage door is downstream. You have to open the doors to let it go through. So it's flooded anyway. So their whole house had about a foot of water through it and it was just pouring out and there was tools going down. I was grabbing them fucking as they're going past. And
how deep?
I fell over and it was up to my waist at one point. And the house,
so full on.
Inside the house, it was like a foot of water.
Did they seem annoyed?
They've had this is their 5th time it's happened.
By the 5th time, what's the vibe?
Very high insurance premiums.
They can't insure.
Really?
Based on it happening so often. The council won't fix it. Absolute pricks. They've submitted to it's the council's problem because they haven't channeled the water. They haven't done the drainage. They've said they will do it. They come and look at it. They don't do it. She actually said to me, Jackie, lovely.
Mention on the podcast.
She said, can you please mention
which council?
Look up what Bulleen Council is. We'll send this snippet. They said that they were going to do it. They've received many letters and this poor family has been put out 5th time.
And so what happens now with their house?
Well, I was in there with about 10 other people with brooms pushing the water out the front door. And so they've got used to it. So they lift everything up off the ground, as in like anything worth lifting off the ground.
The whole house is like the interior is on stilts.
No, they pull out all the, electricals and it's so full on, dude. It's such a pain in the ass for them. And so anyway, we helped out. And by the end of the night, they were in our place and we're drinking wine and having a few beers.
Oh, great. So you had a...
Yeah, I said, I wish this could have happened on a better circumstance.
Yeah.
Come over for beers when it hasn't been flooded. And then she got us a pizza.
Oh, that's nice. Where from? Which one?
Molino's.
Oh, that's nice.
One of the best. She's like, we're going for dinner. Do you want me to bring you back a pizza? We said, yeah, that's amazing. And then all of a sudden we got a medium prosciutto pizza delivered to our door at 8:45. It's the best. Bodie had a slice. I had a slice. Amy had a slice. Then I continued to have slices.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say that's only 3 slices.
Yeah, I had 3.
Actually, talking about slices, had pizza on Friday with Happy Harry.
Oh, yeah, Happy Harry. That was lovely to see Happy Harry.
Yeah.
He makes me happy when I see him. And it makes Amy happy when she saw him too. She's like, I love Harry.
Well, he slept over at our place.
Yeah.
Because the train, he was going from Wodonga maybe.
He was coming from Warrnambool.
Warrnambool, thank you. That's it.
And he has to get back up to.
But he couldn't get
somewhere.
to. Basically, you catch a train into the city, but then if he was to get the train home, it'd be too late.
Oh, you said his dad would have had to drive 2 hours
at 11 p.m.
Yeah.
And so he's like, you got to stay in Melbourne, and so he stayed at ours joint.
Yeah.
And so he was on Instagram, and we're trying to find stuff to watch on Apple TV, and he said, Queen Gronk is posting about the Wiggles are doing a special concert.
Oh, a relief
adults.
concert from the RSL in Sydney. The find out. I think Amy used to live in that suburb.
Really?
What's it called? Castle Hill RSL. That's a big one.
Sounds about right. And so we're watching all of that. That was awesome.
This was the old Wiggles, not the new Wiggles. So
did you hear what happened?
One of them had a
cardiac arrest. So but it's not funny at all.
I know, I'm laughing because it's so outrageous.
It was so not like it was such a nice event, and it was like I was getting right behind it because there's something very nostalgic specifically about Greg the Yellow Wiggle.
Yeah,
I guess because being the front man, I've got like memories of just his
being
voice.
The front man?
No, not being the front. No, just
memories of him.
Of him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so at the end of the concert, he fell over, and they had to perform CPR. If they didn't perform CPR, he would have died.
So a cardiac arrest means his heart completely stopped. A heart attack
I'm not sure
doesn't necessarily mean...
Yeah, so they had to use a defib.
Oh, he had a heart attack.
times,
His heart... So remember how Craig Harper did this to his friend?
3 shocks with a defib.
Yeah, his heart has stopped. That's starting your heart again. That's full on, dude.
And
I mean, is that just random that it happened? Or
so he had to finish
wiggling
up.
too hard,
Well,
didn't he?
He had to finish up with the Wiggles because he had severe what's when you're real tired all the time?
Insomnia, no. Chronic fatigue.
Yeah, he had like severe fatigue, and then he would also faint, all these things, and so it
God, Aussie hero gone down. Lucky. I saw that he was like there was a paramedic there. So this is the bit I saw from my peripheral. I didn't even know it happened at the event. I thought he was just walking down the street.
No.
And so there was a nurse that helped do the resuscitation on the CPR.
The drummer of the Wiggles was doing it alongside a nurse that was just there attending. But but it's so lucky. And so they're
out of us, who's going down with a heart attack while doing the show? Because it's
pretty dark.
No, but it's also like
Great.
That's how hard he's gone.
Well,
that's how hard.
The other
he's
funny thing is, when you got no sense of people's age, and we're saying we're like, fuck, they look good. It's like, there must be 60. Like they look so good for 60. Anyway, turns out he's 48. That's why he looks so good for 60. I think it's hard to tell because sometimes the fittest people are the ones that.
True. I mean,
because you always hear
Harper's mate.
Yeah, you always hear the stories of like, oh man, they would run six days a week. But 6 days a week.
Stops. Heart just stops.
I was going to say 6 times a day.
I mean, I went for a run this morning around my neighbourhood to see the destruction, and there was just trees had been just blown down, massive gum tree just breaking a fence.
That was on the news.
Was it?
Yeah, the big gum tree was on the news.
A power line went down at the front of our place.
Mm-hmm. Did you lose power?
I don't. So when I say power line, it was from the power line grid, but it mustn't have lost power because I think it was a smaller cable. I think it was some other cable, so it didn't remove power. Luckily, all of ours was on. Next door neighbours, they lost a bunch of power because of the water.
And so what happens with you now that you have that, like you discover that there's a tile missing, which always I find super surprising, the idea that it only takes one tile.
Yeah.
You have one tile missing and then everything can come in.
But it's also the amount of water in the small amount of time. So we've never had that. There's been rain there. I had my personal training studio years ago would have happen the same thing when there was torrential rain for 10 minutes. But the agent said that they're coming around, so
you let them know.
I sent them photos.
And what'd they say?
Oh no, we're going to speak to the insurance company. It's just a pain in the ass for everybody, really.
Well, my place got fully flooded
Which time
in Abbotsford when there was the fire.
Your apartment?
Yeah.
Did it? Shit.
So because
oh my
of the
God,
fire,
we haven't spoken about this. So your apartment next door burnt down because someone knocked over a bong.
Yeah.
But the guy who lived there commented on something that we
Tommy Faith, who lived next door to me on the other side. He is the executive producer at Triple J Unearthed.
Yes.
And he's originally from Sydney, and we got along. He was actually the guy who I gave him our internet for like 6 months. He was running on that.
Yes. So that had nothing to do with the house that actually burnt down.
And so, when the apartment burnt down, surprisingly, when it was all happening, the guy whose house was burning down, they knocked on their house first before telling me about it. And I'm next to him, but I think it was because they're a family and he knew that they were home.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I because of all the sprinklers going off, the sprinklers didn't even go off in our house, but because they went off next door, it seeped through and we had probably 15 centimetres of water through the house. And so they had to vacuum it all up. And
yeah, it's a pain in the ass. It's a pain in the ass, all these things.
How was Baldwin North, you guys got hit with that as well?
Oh, yeah. My next door neighbours, they had, because they're on like the downhill or whatever, they had to put sandbags in front of their fencing so the water wouldn't come into their property. And then
they already had sandbags at home?
So they had them at home. And so they ran out like mid-storm or whatever and was just like putting them up against the fence. And then, our street was flooded, but we're on the upper hill, so it just literally goes through.
Yeah, living at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Because if there wasn't damage, I would I love storms. I was waiting when I saw it. I was like, yes. When I saw that the storm was coming, I was like, I'm getting ready I knew that I wouldn't be able to be out on my balcony because of lightning and stuff.
Yeah.
But I was bracing myself for a really good storm.
The cafe you don't recommend, Jerry's Milk Bar.
Oh, yeah.
In St Kilda, where it flooded in St Kilda, Elwood area years ago when I lived there, and
Did you get Jerry?
I went out with my camera, and I ended up having to help him. I was in the cafe; the water was up to my knees, and we were moving shit. It was full on. But it's so annoying for people. But I think Anyway, lucky. It's not so lucky for Tiff.
Oh yeah, Gronk Tiff. She's been posting on Instagram about a Tinder profile and other profiles created with her name and photo.
Yeah. So if you know what her face looks like, if you just showed me the photo, I would have known that it was Tiff. It's not Tiff. Tiff didn't set up the Tinder profile. Tiff has never had Tinder, and someone has informed her that she has a Tinder profile that someone's using, and she's written through and she said that someone actually got catfished. They were catfished. Came forward saying they'd been catfished by this account.
Do you owe anything to the person that's been catfished? So look, I'll go on a date with you. Look, if you were so nice to me, show me the history.
How do they know that they? So they must have obviously known who Tiff was.
They've gone to her Instagram, maybe.
Because you can click through. Yeah, I'm not on it.
Can you click through?
Have you got Tinder?
No.
Can you just get on your phone so we can look and just
on Tinder
and understand it? But when it first started, it didn't link. It didn't. You couldn't click off. I don't think to take you to the.
I was thinking
Instagram
maybe, but you could do a reverse.
I think
Google
you can
search?
do. This is right. I think you can actually click through, and it'll take you to their profile.
Oh, that's handy.
So you get a smorgasbord of photos.
Well, you get a sense of
the
mutuals.
individual.
You can see mutual friends.
Yeah,
which
is how they might have done that with Tiff's thing. Seen understood and then found it if they didn't know her already.
Oh, do you know what app that I've just gotten?
Bumble.
Bumble networking. No.
What do you got?
CoStar.
What's CoStar?
Do you know about CoStar?
Let me guess. This is a karaoke, some kind of singing duets app.
Couldn't be further off.
What is it? CoStar.
When you see it, you'll know exactly what it is. Ready?
Yeah. Okay. Show me. Tully, Gemma, all the peeps.
So this is it asks where you were born, what time, and then
a bit like our accountant.
Yeah, exactly. He was getting all the details.
Just had a meeting with our new accountant. He was asking some questions, having to understand our background.
It was very good though, wasn't it?
Loved it.
And anyway, so I've got, it says here, this is my chart today.
But hang on. So the app itself, You sign up,
Yeah.
enter all this details in, and it pushes you something per day?
Yeah,
or?
but then you add friends and it tells you how you're going to interact with the friends. And so our friend Lucy from Home Body Club has it.
Okay.
And she sent a screen grab to Bree where it's like, Lucy, Lucy, you and Josh have will help each other in this way. Feeding each other by hand will be like, it's very strange. And I was like, was I meant to add, like what I wasn't sure on is it's like, are you meant to just add everyone or is it just something you meant to have with your partner? Because it's a little bit awkward if all of a sudden, say if you're on it and you've got all your friends on it.
Yeah.
And then it says, oh, Tommy, currently you are sexually compatible with Tiff. It's slightly uncomfortable, especially if it's not like
my wife.
It's not your wife. But then I also thought then it's also you being it's knowing all the catfishing. It's not Tiff either. But no, so I thought that was sort of strange.
Okay, and so today,
what it says for me today, non-conformity is also a performance. Power in work, spirituality, social life and self. Trouble with thinking and creativity and sex and love. Today's moon transit is encouraging you to take advantage of creative flow. You're feeling particularly good today. Luck is on your side.
I thought it said you're not going to be creative today.
It's a bit.
Yeah, I thought that said that. And sex, I thought he's pretty useless today, actually. You want to go home? But then it came back and said something about
creative flow.
You're in creative flow.
I don't understand it. This is what it says for Lucy. Here we go. Today, Josh Janssen, you give people the gift of your devotion and attention. And Lucy Green wants to erase the physical boundaries and become totally enmeshed. You have similar desires. Yeah. You have similar desires for a real connection right now. Being straightforward is another way to play. Send them a sentimental love letter. Include a lock of your hair.
I reckon what you've done is, you put Lucy in as your partner, like your girlfriend. Maybe there's a setting where you actually put your loved one where
I don't think there is.
Start sending you some more intimate shit.
Let's see if Jem accepted me.
This app.
She hasn't. But let's see what it says for Bree.
This app is worse than Madison Avenue.
Yeah, this is what I mean.
Breaking up marriages.
So I can understand why Lucy sent it to Bree and not to me. Like, haha, look at just try, like almost uncomfortable. Like, hey, just so you know, the app's trying to set us up. This is what it says it for Bree and I. Today, Josh Janssen, you repress your nervous energy until it becomes a rush of white noise in your body. Breanna, on the other hand, has fluctuating desires that can make them feel moody. Neither of you are willing to address the actual problem. You're adaptable. You can shift your form. Be careful so that you don't become shapeless. For the love of God, try not to destroy each other.
Is this pulling on astrology or numerology? What is this? Mr. 97, do you know?
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, it says powered by AI that merges NASA data with the insight of human astrologers.
It's just astrology. No fucking
They said NASA?
Yeah, and all those gronks that wear NASA T-shirts, they don't work at NASA just because they got a T-shirt
You got that from Cotton On.
But no, so it's astrology. Have we got Crystal's book here handy? It was around. Can you grab it for me?
They're your keys.
Yeah,
ready.
She has a whole section about astrology, and basically it's a conversation around how much bullshit it is. Can you just find a poignant piece or question that has been asked that she answers the for and against for? It might just sort of.
So what do I like? I almost feel like I need to remove this app. Like
I saw Gemma's yesterday, which was like saying something about stay away from depressants,
and then, so she was going on Tequila,
which it doesn't make sense because sorry, Gemma, but alcohol itself is a depressant.
But I think Tequila maybe has different qualities.
But alcohol's alcohol. Like alcohol itself,
Seven, can you look up that as a priority?
It's like saying have a different protein. Like it's protein itself. Like alcohol is a...
So tequila though, alcohol is a depressant.
Itself, the drug itself, exactly. Which is within tequila and all those alcohols.
But what I wonder is there must be Have you heard that before, that tequila
No, I
does something
hadn't.
different?
So let's look that up.
So tequila is a stimulant, not a depressant.
But hang on, how does that work when the drug itself is alcohol? Like it's the actual substance, the chemical
That's
substance.
what I'd like
is
to know.
Alcohol,
Yeah.
which is the only reason I push back on that tequila thing, because it could be a good piece of marketing around tequila brands. It's like, oh, if you're depressed, don't worry,
Or
we
just
got you.
add Red Bull. You know,
But I'm here to stand incorrected if I am
incorrected.
incorrect. Incorrect. Sorry.
That. Oh yeah. How do you feel about getting co-star so we can all see how we're
It's
aligned?
fucking bullshit. What are you meant to add? Then it dictates how you treat people?
Yeah, but if
because
it's in a positive way,
I'd rather just ask you how you're feeling and you tell me honestly.
well, I don't know. I didn't know all these
then
things.
relate it to,
I didn't know I had trouble with thinking and creativity.
but relate it to, so how do you, it says you feel quite good today, didn't it?
Yeah, well, I do.
How
actually.
do you do feel quite
Yeah.
good? Okay. Anything on the tequila? Like why it's not a depressant even though it's still alcohol, and alcohol itself is a depressant?
No, I'm trying to find the thing that makes it not a depressant.
Yeah.
So I'm on a page right now that says it acts as a stimulant, but it's also a depressant because it has ethanol in it, which is a depressant.
Which is the alcohol part.
Yeah,
Ethanol
so-
is alcohol.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to find more info.
How it was made or something. I mean, they're pretty happy in Mexico actually.
What do you
They
think?
seem pretty light on.
I was listening to a podcast by Kevin Rose. He has Rhonda Patrick on.
Oh yeah, Dr. Rhonda Patrick.
And she's
Mason loves her.
Yeah, she's good.
She's talking about omega 3s.
Fish oil.
Yeah. It's very complicated, isn't it? Have you listened to it?
No, I haven't listened to it yet. But what was complicated about it?
Different ones doing different things.
I mean,
some of them
the
you
two
gotta-
main ones are EPA and DHA.
Yeah. And
Just have
EPA
fish.
EPA is the one that there's one that like you get more in the fish eggs. Do you ever eat fish eggs?
Too expensive.
I mean, that's why most people use the
Supplements.
of it.
But so
'cause it's
apparently
easy. Krill oil.
there's like bioavailability in these things, and the normal one goes through a process, but there's a final process they can do which makes them more bioavailable, which most of them don't have. I don't know. I've just been thinking.
Well, that's
I want to try
complex.
to become less inflamed.
Yeah.
Do you know what I worked out that I could? So I can do this, right? So if you can't see the visuals, I'm like grabbing my. How would you describe that?
You're just touching finger to finger. You got
On my back.
one hand up.
What do you call that?
It's like it's stretch that you did at school. It's like stretching out your back and your arms.
So I
and
can
they're
do
like
that.
interlocked behind your back.
So I can do that, right? With
One hand up above your head, one hand
Yeah.
down below.
you can do that.
Grab it. Yeah.
But then look at this. Can't do it the other way.
Yeah, so you got tightness and something going on
I can't
one
do it
side
the
of
other
your
way
body.
either. I can just touch my fingertips, but I can't actually latch
Yeah,
my hands.
yeah. So the other way, I can just.
So what's
touch.
going on?
So
So I want
I'm
to
right-handed, so
So
I
am I.
could, when my right hand was down low.
You couldn't do it when your right hand was down low, right?
Yeah, so when my right hand was down low,
Yeah,
which
I
I think is and so we're right-handed, all of us.
So why?
There's tight rotator cuff. I don't know, something up through the
You're saying
back of your
words.
shoulder blade.
Scapulas. So
all the
I'm
muscles
thinking
in
I
there.
would like to 2020 scapular health.
I think that I mean that could be a good
That's very
driver.
specific.
I
So
know,
scapula-
that's like saying my goal is to be able to touch
Calf
my
strength.
toes. So then
That's a good goal.
Yeah, that's probably a better one than scapular strength.
Yeah, well, because
Because it's just
it's a
exercise.
bit
It's
hard.
going to
Well, so
weights and
so scapular is all about pulling. I need to pull more
you need to pull more. You're pulling
Yeah.
enough, mate. Just
because if you pulling is the
scapular protraction.
and so I've had a bunch of pain in the scapular region.
You need
so
a
I want
PT.
to do some. Yeah, I was thinking of speaking to Durham.
Durham's awesome because this is our friend who has they specialize in
podcast
basketball.
called?
Core Advantage is the business
Core
that he has,
Advantage.
Is the podcast titled Core Advantage?
but they work with athletes and are very mindful of their approach and it's all about preventing injury and is not crazy, you know, trying to be some hero lifting weights at the gym, but they do strength and conditioning and mobility. It's
all the technique stuff. It's
yeah,
great.
yeah. I think that'd be perfect for you.
Instagram's great.
He said, Durham said to me he would come in and give you a sort of a, you know, testing and seeing where you need work and get you going. So that would be good to get Durham in.
Well, he
maybe
got
he'd
me
do it
onto
for the three of us downstairs in the garage, get us sort of, you know, some kind of like testing to see what we need to improve. My back's a bit fucked downstairs.
Really?
Tight glutes and so, yeah, hip flexor and it's
Well, I was
nightmare.
even thinking about how we sit doing the show.
We
can't do this forever.
My back is definitely like when I say back, my lower back has definitely got tighter since we're doing this show. From the other studio to this one, just a couple of big babies. We're just, oh my God, did you see the Jabba the Jihadi? An ISIS leader who was 250 kilos was captured.
Yes. I did see that. And they had to put him in the back of a truck because they couldn't.
He was so fat.
Yeah.
And he's the ISIS leader. The thing is he being overweight as a jihadi.
You wouldn't be his business partner.
No, definitely not. It's like frowned upon to be overweight within that religion. I think part of that religion or being in the jihadi. Fucking sucked in, fat boy. You got caught. It's the only time I'll say that about somebody when they're an ISIS leader.
So what was 250 kg?
Dude, look at
what was the deal?
It literally looks like Jabba the Hutt.
And so who have they? How have you read? Where have you read this?
I saw it first and I thought it was a joke on a ex-UFC fighter's Instagram, and then I searched it.
Where all the good news comes from.
And it was true. They caught somebody in Afghanistan, Baghdad, or no, somewhere over in the Middle East, and they did a mission and he wasn't going anywhere. He literally couldn't get up. And so and then you see a photo someone's taken, obviously on their cell phone, looking down from the window, and they've chucked him onto the back of a pickup truck, like a ute.
Really?
Yeah. He's, annoying to have to deal with that guy.
Any more info on him?
Yeah, so a SWAT team rounded him up in Mosul. Which is Iraq.
Yeah.
And
just at a McDonald's there and drive through. Just set up
my question:
a sting operation.
The second window he pays for it.
No.
Has he got that fat? I mean, he was in hiding, right? Like,
no, the way they actually did it was they didn't give him his sweet and sour sauce, so he came back. Sweet and sour sauce. It's funny because Breanna and I had a grilled fish last night to be a bit healthier.
Omega-3s.
Yeah. It was
Which
actually
fish?
Whatever.
Was it like white?
Did you cook it or
was it like flathead or something?
I don't know. It was white.
Takeaway.
But it was the Kiwi fish and chip shop up the road. It's great. But is that classic thing of we get it delivered and the tartare sauce. They forgot the tartare sauce. I'm trying to be more mindful. The initial reaction is like, I can't eat it.
Cancelling that joke.
Yeah. I can't. Guys, I can't eat any of this.
I'm getting my money back from Uber.
Do you know what I ended up doing? I used olive dip in the fridge.
Great.
It worked well.
Probably healthier than tartare.
Yeah, it could be. But no, I would like to eat more fish. It could be good to try some of those, what's it called? The fish balls?
Caviar?
Yeah.
Quite expensive.
Very expensive.
No, but what about the salmon? What is it called? Salmon eggs. There's a word for it. Type in salmon eggs for me, please.
I think, isn't that it?
Roe.
Salmon roe, yeah.
Salmon roe. I haven't heard that one.
Yeah.
Roe.
And so you could mix it up with like a cream cheese, like the way Rhonda gets her kid to eat it, and she puts like a garlic herb cream cheese and puts the roe on that.
If we're talking food, meal prepped like 14 meals yesterday.
Really?
What did you put in them? I did a couple of different ones. I did curry. I did a Mexican dish with rice and potato.
In a big slow cooker, or how'd you do it? No,
just in a frying pan. It's like
a curry in a frying pan.
Just cooked. That's what you do in a pan.
In like a wok?
No, you can do curries. Mate, have you ever cooked a curry?
Yeah, but I've never used like a frying pan to cook curry.
It's a big enough frying pan. It's not a small one.
What shape? Circle?
Circle frying pan. Okay. It's sort of like, it's kind of deep.
Is it deep?
Anyway, I'll let you taste some of the curry, then you can let me know. And I'll
what sort of base? Is it like a coconut?
It's a green curry.
Okay.
Anyway, that's enough
Did you
food
buy
chat.
your own
It's enough food
paste?
chat. It's enough food chat.
Was it a paste that you bought, or did you make the paste up?
Yeah. Not making the paste. There's like 20 ingredients in that fucker. Sevs, have we got anyone writing through before we finish up?
Tiff, about the conversation about that CoStar app, she says, what is this? And she just came back into the conversation. So,
did you find anything in that book of crystals?
yeah, so there's...
Crystal Andrews, great book, How to Win Every Argument.
So the thing that I guess the person who's against you in the conversation...
which is someone trying to say that astrology is the bee's knees and it's real,
that's good.
and you believe it's absolute bullshit.
You should have read my horoscope last month. It was accurate. It was so me. How do you explain that?
Which could, in this app, you read it and you go, that's me today. I'm feeling good. Yes, that's right. Tick, I'm sexually... tick.
I just want to know who I'm meant to add on this.
Well, let's just... I mean, I think this might get you to delete it.
The Barnum effect.
The Barnum.
The theory is that most people very easily agree with the descriptions about themselves that are broad, general, and framed positively without realizing the same could apply to almost anyone.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's why
Who's
zodiac
Barnum?
signs and
P.T.
shit.
Barnum?
Yeah.
Do you know P.T. Barnum? The Greatest Showman? Did you watch that movie?
No.
Hugh
Magician?
Jackman played him.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman.
And so,
So we're listening to a magician.
positively framing something. So that magicians are into manipulation, right? So
He's
it's
a
like,
showman, politician, and businessman.
yeah. So we need to employ a bit more magician-like techniques in our business approach, because it's what they're saying is, if it's positive and serves you, and you want it to, like, that's where you connect with it. I mean, I don't know where it's like the depressant thing. Stay away from depressants. Probably a good piece of advice for most people.
Yeah.
Don't take something that will make you feel like absolute shit. It's probably a good piece of advice. So that's where you kind of like...
Yeah,
extrapolate
it's
from
like the advice that it provided to you and Bree. You got to confront whatever you're not willing to confront.
Well, a good piece of advice
For anyone.
forever.
Yeah,
It's very true.
Any day.
Yeah.
Lean into the hard shit. Have the hard conversation.
Yeah.
It's great. But I mean, the app is... Tully, what was she on about yesterday? She posted her one too. Mason, you talked to her every night. What did she say?
Do you have each other
I don't
on the
know.
app?
Hang on. No, I don't have the app.
I wonder if there's...
Don't ever apologize for being alive. Power in sex and love and self. Trouble with work, thinking and creativity, and social life.
I mean, there you go. The most broad fucking shit I've ever
you
heard.
have that. You had sex, love, and self as well.
Well, it even said to me, the weird thing is that, like, it specifically wants to know where you were born.
Yeah, because it's just trying to get your big data.
But yeah, it felt like that. Like, I put in the exact suburb, it's like the exact
Address.
time.
Yeah, they've sold it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't
It's
know.
a complete scam.
But Dr. Jason Fox is on it. But he
Yeah, but
hasn't accepted me yet. So
He
I don't know
leans
our
into a bit
sexual
of woo-woo.
compatibility.
He leans into it. He's a smart guy. I'm sure
I want
if
to
you
know
actually
my
asked
sexual
him,
compatibility with Jason Fox right now. But it's not. It's
yeah, I mean,
light touch with Dr. Jason Fox.
also, I want to understand that. Gemma, if you can, and I'm sure you've done the research now, the depressant thing with tequila. I want to understand this. You need a full statement.
It feels like I'm one step away, though, from
Letting it dictate your life.
No. I was going to say like
Being with Lucy. It told me to.
No, I was going to say like getting a crystal.
Yeah, get a crystal. This is the thing. I don't have this app. Read your zodiac sign. Look at numerology.
Well, you're getting into spirituality more.
You cannot compare spirituality in the sense
it's
of
not the same.
mindfulness and meditation with fucking goo gaga bullshit.
You think there's a big difference?
There's a massive difference.
What do you think it is?
One's more rooted in science and the other isn't. Meditation, mindfulness is more like scientifically
what's
But that's based on
what's-
NASA data.
I said spirituality.
Yeah, but you're lumping
I didn't
spirituality.
say I didn't say mindfulness. I said
But-
spirituality. But how is spirituality rooted in science?
So just backtracking a bit, you're lumping this stuff into spirituality when there's a real So look up the definition of spirituality, because if I was looking at it and if I was to say I'm a spiritual person, doesn't mean that I'm into zodiac signs.
No, it doesn't.
It means I'm into understanding at a higher level something beyond myself and the world we're living in.
Well, I don't know what the answer is. What is
So spirituality is the quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things.
Yeah, but I think the problem with this kind of stuff is it can easily get lumped in with it, and I don't think it gives spirituality a good branding. It doesn't give it a good name.
Maybe it's looking at spirituality as a branding exercise. But no,
I think it's pretty unspiritual to do that.
Yeah. No, but it's interesting. No, I think that it's can you, if you're detached from all these things, I wonder if you then get to a point of, if spirituality is a very personal thing, and some people are using spirituality as a way of being. I think that probably.
Yeah, but I think there's some basics of look at basics of spirituality, and I think it.
Can you rationalize spirituality?
It's something beyond our complete understanding, but I mean, see where you're throwing up these things that then make room for this bullshit. But I don't think there is room for this bullshit, because how is it generalizing and making assertions based on some little details you put in that are spitting out from an AI computer your future, then you got to go, tarot card readers are the fucking bomb. They're the truth. It's like, come on, dude.
But I don't know if we're saying spirituality is truth.
I'm not saying truth, but I'm just saying it's the BS that they're spinning. Tarot card readers, the zodiac signs. Like, I don't think they can be lumped together. I think one can be like, so I don't know what you'd even call that. So what's the difference?
So where do you draw the line around spirituality then?
The line around spirituality, are you saying to exclude all that and what it actually says?
I don't know what. Yeah.
Because you could go, the exploration of you beyond yourself is all a part of spirituality, and then you could go, oh, well, that is doing that.
But I don't rooted in science, I think that's where it probably.
Rooted in science, that you're looking at something like consciousness. You're looking at something at the level of thought and what it all means for your time here, which is all.
Is that consciousness, and is consciousness and spirituality the same thing?
No. Consciousness is what we are in right now, which is so this is beyond what we're fucking our skill set of talking about.
Well, that's what I was saying, but so much pushback to that's not spirituality or whatever.
No, I'm saying don't lump it into spirituality.
But then also saying, is that rooted in science as an argument? I'm saying what's rooted in
science is science would squash that, any of that. What I'm saying is elements of science about consciousness, your mind, how is more connected to the exploration of self and understanding it, so it can inform that exploration.
I don't So I have no idea. I don't know, whether this app is bullshit or not.
I'm not saying science is spirituality. I'm saying there's more information about spirituality through science to learn about than this shit, which I don't think can be lumped in with meditation and the.
Well, no, I'm not I never mentioned this and meditation.
No, but I'm saying when you say spirituality and then you go, that's a part of it. And someone says I'm spiritual because I read my star signs and look at numerology and understand my zodiacs and all of that shit. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I think you're connecting two separate things. So the meditation and the actual brain, the body chemistry, the brain chemistry, all that sort of stuff. I've got no idea. But there is spirituality, I think, is a little bit more of a broader term which could encompass people's individual experience. And so I think that you can't, the only bit that I wasn't sure on is I don't think that you can say, you can speak about spirituality and then all of a sudden use the debate around rooted in science.
No. That's what I said. It's not all rooted in spirituality. Is not rooted in science, but there are elements of science that can inform spiritual practices that give them a bit more validity than something like zodiac signs. That's all I'm saying.
And so then if there's like placebo, so say if you use the example of this app, and say if it did have a skew towards positivity, if someone was using that as part of their spiritual journey or their personal journey, and it had a positive effect, but it was only placebo, is it okay? Is it something that's worth doing?
Makes sense.
And so I think that
but
that's
I don't think that's general. That's giving it the best potential outlook as possible.
What's the other outlook?
But then you're saying that it's like everything it's spitting out is positive. And so when there's like read my star sign today might not be all positive. And so then if you're living a life based on this information, at what point, like are you pressing the button that says, I want everything positive, nothing negative, and then that lets me live my life? But that's not the reality of these things. They're so generalized, and it's an individual at home writing, the guy that writes the Herald Sun, star
what a weird
signs.
Job.
Yeah. I mean, it's just his job. But there's people that have alternative stances to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I just looked up spirituality, and the questions that come under it, where do I find my meaning? How do I feel connected? And how should I live? So, I mean,
which aren't answered by science, and it's not what I was trying to say.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I guess if the app works for you and you use it and it has an impact on it, then I guess it could help you find meaning.
I wonder
and help you live. So
I wonder if also like the
I
fact
think it's
that
a different conversation to, is it actually real, and what is the validity of it? That's not the same question, right?
That's not the question. But like, so you could say like within faith, a conversation on did all these things actually, like did everything in the Bible, did that all happen? Is a different conversation around spirituality and using it as a.
I think it's probably closer to I drink celery juice every morning, and regardless of the science, it makes me feel better. Because then it's like, okay, well, what is the truth behind celery juice? Nothing. There's no science. It's bullshit. It's all fucking bullshit. And so then that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think it's more closely to I do it and it works for me than is that all good? It's like, well, yeah, but you can still drink your celery juice, but it's actually not doing the thing you think it is. So whether it's placebo or not,
I wonder if you can rationalize how you rationalize spirituality. If it's such a personal thing, I think that it can. Yeah, maybe that's like the next step to all of that sort of stuff is not understanding or not knowing, and so
I know it's such a a statement that then doesn't allow for you to ever look at something like zodiac signs and go absolute bullshit. Like it's at what point? Because then you go spirituality is like, but then.
You can choose to
the exploration of self and what meaning and purpose, and I think there are things that have been created that aren't helpful, and so. But then you can always say, yeah, but if it was helpful to someone, does that mean that it's not helpful at all? Well, because then you just go around in circles. At what point do you go? Zodiac signs are absolute bullshit, and it's exactly what that was just said. It's this guy. It's we choose what's positive we choose what serves us from reading them.
And so my point is that if it's a mechanism that individuals use, so doing prayer, like praying to a being that is bigger than us, you could say, oh, well, that's like scientifically impossible or whatever it is. Does that mean that practice isn't beneficial to the individual?
But then the science would, like, if you were to, I don't know. You're saying answer. Science for a god or whatever, but then you go science behind positive thinking,
and so then
and serving. Yeah, but if you're relying your life on something like that app or something like the star signs in the Herald Sun, you're on a slippery slope.
I don't know if you are. I reckon, I think there is something. I'm always concerned when people are so dogmatic in whichever approach they take. So I take it with a grain of salt. It's a fun app to go in. For some people, they find a bunch of meaning and it helps them.
Yeah, but I think you're the anomaly in that. Because I don't
What's the
think
other option?
that people are completely dictated by it. Like there are people that are taken and they think it's truth and it's like exactly how they should live their life. So then you're saying I think the best version of using these is your approach.
Yeah, and because I think that the other thing is the rooted in science thing. The hard bit is like you're not a scientist. You don't know, like science is constantly evolving. And so you don't know, like what is rooted in science today might be different tomorrow depending on what information.
I mean, you've really gone hard on the rooted in science bit. Let me just clarify the rooted in science part. There is more scientific
I don't know whether what you're saying
information.
Is true.
What?
Well, like whatever you say now, I can't debate because I don't actually know whether it's true.
I'm just trying to say what I was trying to get across was the practices of other spiritual practices like meditation, like mindfulness. It could be positive self-talk. These things are all more proven by science than something like zodiac signs.
And I think
that's all I was trying to say. So when I say root in science, spirituality, it's not because there's things like there's all this meaning and purpose. You could have a scientific explanation for why we're here and what we're meant to be doing. It doesn't necessarily have a real stick to people and their journey and what it actually means and all the things they face. So there's something outside of that they need to explore. But if we're keeping it to something like this app and its validity and it's just like seriously.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I think that you have a willingness to argue things that you know that there's information out there. You don't know the exact information, but you're like, I know that like some people have said this, so like I'm going to be pretty like stern on like.
Yeah, but then what's the opposite? You're just always on the fence. Oh, I never know. It's like I think there's a willingness to
what's the advantage of being your side, like taking your approach to it?
I'll probably get closer to working it out, having the real information if you don't think I have any information. Because
why?
Because
you'll go away and have
someone will call me out or someone will say something. I'll be informed. I'll have a conversation versus always just saying, look, I don't have enough information.
But so say for instance,
take it with a grain of salt.
But what about like the other approach, which is I feel like how you feel in a lot of ways in regards to this, but then entering into it and exploring it and allowing that truth or reality for a moment to see what it actually does from a psychological point of view. How does it change?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but I've read star signs over the years and done the exact thing of like at what point, what bit of this relates to me. I'll throw the other shit out. So like I see how I've put it on work. I've put it on myself to be interested in reading star signs and numerology and getting a bit excited around them and connecting the dots to my life. But then I see how it's so easy to just connect the positivity and the things that relate to me. And even some of the stuff like in numerology, you know, you work out your number based on the calculation of your birth year, add it together and it gives you your number. So I'm like a 9 something. You know, you get your number right and then you have a book that you go and find that number order and you read it and it's like, here's your negative things, you know, and then I read those and try and connect them to, like I see the psychology of using the general nature of it to then connect it to my experience on earth. And so that's where I find the issue with it. So my personal experience is where the only reason I'm talking like this as far as understanding how it's trying to connect these dots and use that thing. And so I'm going, it can't be. And so I'm just saying I'm willing to have the conversation. If someone thinks that they have, like, I mean, read more of that astrology book.
Yeah, well, I mean, but why does the validity of the app matter?
No, it's about, what do you mean of the app?
Well, so you were talking about if the app's valid or not and the horoscopes and all that sort of stuff. If it's valid and if it's...
If you've got Josh's approach of like, yeah, I just take it as a grain of salt.
I even think people who are fully invested in it, there's no downside to that because it's prompting like...
It's giving
more questions, and I guess it's sort of like poking at a little bit of emotional intelligence because it's getting them to question things that's happening in their life. Whether it's like there's something that you haven't.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
It's creative prompts, isn't it? Like could it just be?
Yeah, and I actually don't think negative as such when you are asking yourself these questions that it is prompting you to.
So why do you take
But I think
such
they
a
become
strong...
all gimmicks. They become such gimmicks, and for people that that do read into it and make shifts in their life based on these apps.
What's the other... How else do you make choices or decisions in life?
I mean, there's plenty of ways. I think are you asking, is the way to do it through an app? I think there's a bunch of better ways to do it.
Well, I think like the format is just an app. They've just created this thing. Like this happened. This has been around before an app. But I guess the question becomes, what is how do you make decisions in life? And you could argue that all of these things are just that, like we spoke about previously.
Okay, I know what you're saying. So now if we're clear on the conversation, is there truth within these apps? Is zodiac signs proven? Like all these things, right?
And so that's where you came from the argument.
Yeah, and so that's where,
like,
and now you're sort of spinning, it's a different conversation. So that's where I'm like, if you're getting prompted, so it's not to spin it back for me to believe that it's all real, to say.
That's not what and that's what I'm not even saying I believe, but based even on what Dr. Jason Fox was saying the other day, can you enter into it and use it as a mechanism to help from a psychological point of view, from a meaning?
Do you think the majority of people that turn to these things, the numbers they call to hear people, call to find out more about your future? Like, do you think the people that turn to these, the desperate people, the people that aren't in a secure mindset as you, that understands and can rationalize, do you think the people that get done by them, do you think that's benefit to them?
What's getting done by, if it's so
spending money on calling the number in the Herald Sun?
Well, mate, but I think like you're also like connecting those two things up.
But you're also giving it the stance that most people are in your camp of entering into it with this kind of like open-mindedness, like taking it with a grain of salt. Because I think what about if we were to look at the person that gets taken down that rabbit hole, spending money, living their life entirely based on it, and it offers up negative effects.
What about your mum's, like being a Catholic, you're like using your mum as an example, has Catholicism served her in her life?
But we're not talking about religion. This is not religion.
But spirituality, faith, all these types of things.
But no, hang on. I think we're moving to religion now. Because I don't think zodiac astrology is religion. And I'm not saying religion's like some real thing, but I'm just saying they're not the same conversation.
Yeah, it is, because it's like spirituality and faith. Say if we're all going in a world of like, hyper rationalism, and we're all like, we're rationalizing everything and putting everything against science and doing all of that. I think potentially not having any room to move in regards to this other world.
I haven't said I've got no room to move.
Well, but I think that completely discrediting this, because I'm like,
if your stance is you can't discredit anything, then we can't. This is not a conversation. Like you see where it butts heads of going, well, you can't discredit anything because you don't know, and then the other is like, what about discrediting things?
You're saying like if it's only like what you said before was it's not rooted in science.
No, but I said to you, like I've explained what I was meaning by that.
Yeah, I don't completely understand what you're arguing.
I'm not arguing. You're pushing over here on you can't argue anything, and I'm just saying I can argue that, and I'm not. And all my initial bit around the science thing, and I don't think I worded it properly, was lumping this in with the spiritual things that are more proven or have stood the test of time and haven't been a manipulation tool.
Yeah,
in senses.
I think that
you can't like lumping it together.
If you look at, like, say, if you look at faith, spirituality, and religion, you could say that there's a bunch of good stuff around spirituality and faith, which would be, but the organized religion bit can sometimes be a negative part of that whole experience. And so what you're doing is similarly to the debate around religion. You're taking the organized app and you're saying, I don't like that. But at the same time, through the way that you're speaking, you're discrediting the potential benefits of the spirituality or the spiritual experience or the faith that people get through using these different mechanisms. And so all I'm saying is no, I don't understand the truth. I don't understand these things. I don't understand that stuff. But even like we watch fiction, we watch Netflix for entertainment. We even use these things to potentially understand our own personal narratives. We might watch this thing and go, that really connects with me on this. And so could potentially we be using these as tools with a little bit like...
I think the way you're going to serve it up makes it sensical. But then there's also, can you lump this in? Is this your spiritual journey? I mean, is it a start of a spiritual journey? Then okay, yeah, sure.
But you're trying to define what a spiritual journey should be, potentially for you.
So then, how about we just remove it from the spirit? That's what I'm saying. I think it is problematic.
Yeah, and that's a bit that's not clear, and that seems like it comes.
I'm sure if you type in the benefits of zodiac signs and your spiritual journey, you'll find great stuff. And I'm sure if you type in the negative and horrible thing, I'm sure you'll find both ways of understanding.
And so I wonder, like, I haven't gone super hard on like this is the way that you need to live.
I haven't said that either.
But I think that the way that you're speaking has implied that these things do not serve and are negative. And I don't think that that's necessary. That's not what I'm saying.
I haven't said they're. I don't think they're needed.
And so that's what I'm saying is like we could all say that like religion, faith, like if we didn't have all these things, look at all the wars that are being started through religion and all that sort of thing.
You're going to meditate or read the zodiac signs to control your life. Which one's better? I mean, at that point when you're defining these things, there is much more evidence of supporting meditation. So that's where it's like, if you're looking at it as simplified as that, if you pick one of the two, which one's better? Meditation. I don't think you can argue with that.
Yeah, I don't.
Because you're going, there's positivity of that.
I don't think I've talked about spirituality. I didn't talk about meditation.
You lumped that in with spirituality, and meditation is a form of spirituality.
And so then
exploring the spiritual.
And so if like spirituality is a real personal experience, then you've got to ask, is it productive to try and go tool by tool and say, is this better than this? Because for some people, one thing could be better than another thing.
I know,
and
but
also,
you don't like
I don't like having an opinion. Like, so
you don't like having an opinion. If someone came to me and said, "Hey, man, if I was to pick one and go with, I want your advice. Which one would you go with?"
That's not what the conversation we're having is.
These are things that you're laying out things where it ends up.
You'd be like okay, what are you seeking right now? Like, what's the?
But if you had to answer one of the two, and the answer was pick one. Which would you say?
Well, I would say that that's not a spiritual question.
No, but I think if you were to just answer the question.
Well, yeah, I don't think it makes any sense.
But this is what you're doing to what I'm saying is
I'm not.
Serving up a version of that of like you can't argue it because you don't know, and don't enter into arguing because it's not your spiritual journey. Or what is your thoughts on that?
I reckon like your willingness to discredit things or talk negatively about something when you don't actually know, and when we see...
But what's wrong with having an opinion?
I think there's something dangerous in having an opinion or being very quick to discredit something when you don't fully understand, or the argument isn't necessarily
So then if the world was the opposite and everyone didn't ever discredit anything and they didn't have an opinion, what happens?
Well, I think that I think that people would be listening. What do you think people are thinking right now listening to this?
They might completely disagree with me. Completely disagree that I think that it's bullshit. And that's okay. And that's what I understand. I understand that because if someone wants to have a conversation about it, they can and with me. And so then
they can't because if you're going off the framework that this is bullshit, then but there's also like the other ways it can enter in it, which is this a mechanism or a tool for someone to create stability in their life yes or no, and if it's yes, then it isn't.
I don't think it's as simple as that though. Because if you approach anything with that, you'll find something, even if it is fucking some bullshit, like some actual bullshit. So when it does come to something that, say, if we're taking away from this and looking at something scientific, and you approached it with that, and the science was celery juice is bullshit, and you say I've got benefits of it, so you ask those questions, you'll land on a keep drinking celery juice. And so
the negativity around drinking celery juice
is there zero health benefits to drinking.
And so if there's zero health benefits, but it's a placebo.
I know. So, but this is, you see what happens. You end up
doing whatever is right for you as an individual.
Sure. But the point being that
you don't
how
want
it's
that.
sold, so how the celery juice sold by this, do this.
By the celery farmers.
Maybe. Big celery farmers. That is manipulation. So there is a dark side to it. My point of saying the celery thing is that if you approach anything with that with no opinion, asking those questions, does it serve you? And you can source the thing that serves that question. And so I'm
what's
saying,
the benefit?
at what point
What's
don't
the
you have
benefit? What's the benefit in looking at it like how I've looked at it from your end? If you were to look at things like that,
take it with a grain of salt. If you find something that's beneficial for you, run with it. Or like, I get it, right? I get it, and I am like that with most things. And so when you think, do I have a massive opinion on this? It might seem it. I don't really give a fuck. But
and so what's the awareness? Is there a self-awareness opportunity?
I think it is. You can have an opinion. You can have a stance. You can, this is why it ends up people disagreeing on things. Doesn't mean that you can't have conversation. Like you said, no, you can't because you already think it's bullshit. No, because I can be changed. My mind can be changed. I'm not rock solid on everything I think, as much as I might say I think this. We have to be able to have conversation to explore this stuff. And so I'm not saying I think it's bullshit. I'm closed off to any conversation. It's not what I'm saying. I think it's bullshit for all the reasons I've talked about. Do I know enough information?
Does it make you think about how you think? So say using the rooted in science stuff.
Yeah, but I explain the root in science.
I didn't understand
maybe watch about.
He's got a lab coat on right now, guys.
The rooted in science thing, I don't think it probably was the wrong phrase to use. The bit where I was saying about the spiritual practices that probably have more benefits from a proven scientific standpoint are along the lines of meditation, mindfulness, positive thinking, affirmation, like all these things.
And so is psychology and spirituality the same thing? I don't know.
I don't think so.
And so the thing is that from a scientific, science connecting.
And so I'm just staying on the rooted in science. So
taking that example,
I'm not saying that maybe you could find some element of those apps to be proven scientifically based. The connections. Spirituality is definitely not a science practice, and so I apologize.
What I wonder is if think about how many decisions in the world are based on faith and religion and all that sort of stuff, and then I wonder, it's okay, if we're going to be open to these things, where do these other things, modern mechanisms that also potentially are more on that woo-woo end, where do they fit in?
Yeah, and I think they fit in. I don't because we're not talking about healing the body with and so then are you looking at Reiki or acupuncture or healers, and so it's not just generalized to if I don't believe in that, I don't believe in anything. I don't think it's as simple as that. Yeah. If you don't believe in zodiac signs, you don't believe in Reiki. I don't think they're the same.
But then if you start talking about the science thing, which I think that's where...
but I'm not saying that. I just told you I made a distinction of where I was connecting the science to it. And all I was saying is I think there would be more connection to real world proof than something like this. That's all I was saying. I wasn't saying that this and spirituality is science because I don't agree. I don't believe that.
And so that's why I just don't know when you say those things and connect it all, it's quite hard to communicate how I feel because I haven't been looking at it.
I think it's hard to have a conversation when you say everything's open to everything I don't know, so I can't, and so I'm open. Like, I don't
you're
think that's,
saying you do know.
I'm saying I don't agree with that. I have as much information as you, and I have my personal experience, and I can also say that I think it's absolute bullshit. So
Bullshit, So bullshit
then you can always
based
call
on
out
whether
you don't
it's
have
a
the
truth.
information.
Well, so the thing is, it's like, but what is the actual truth? What is this being used for? That's what I'm like.
But if people we're looking at zodiac signs,
so if people are using it as a way of like,
yeah, but I think we're back to that. I think we're back to that because if it's you using it as a way of coping, sure. But I think if you bring it, you bring it back to anything.
So where
if
does it become
you're
an
using
issue?
celery juice.
Where does it become an issue?
When it is like the manipulation that people were spending money on this kind of stuff, like, and treating it as gospel for their life.
Do you go? Have you ever gone?
Dictated by it?
Have you ever paid to go to see a movie that's fiction?
What's your point?
So if you're going to go,
but I don't see it as some kind of self-help, giving me the answers for my problems. Like, and then that's where I think you're talking. I don't think the people that aren't looking for the answers for their life's problems. I don't think that's that's not the area that. I mean, I'll read it. I'll be entertained. I'll fucking like, is that connect to me? Yeah, but it still doesn't mean anything, even if it doesn't serve me.
So you're saying that's the only time it's okay? I'm saying
about
there's
the group
also
of people that would be struggling, vulnerable, and are looking to this stuff and believing it.
And what's wrong
word for word.
And so if you
what
believe,
about the people that believe it and it doesn't serve them and it's like, yeah, break up with a partner.
Do they believe it if it doesn't serve them?
I think, but maybe they do.
But wasn't the whole psychology around Crystal saying
that's what he's saying?
You pull the positive stuff out.
I think that's part of it. That's what I think people that are probably more in the camp of, I'll do whatever work. I'll treat it with a grain of salt. I think there's people that aren't treating it with a grain of salt, and you can't discredit that that's not happening.
And so
it is happening. So someone who
but I'm not necessarily against. Yeah, I'm not against that. If it's serving them at a personal level, then it's fine.
Sure.
We should get an expert because I've got no like.
Well, if you get an expert on who is an expert in zodiac signs,
well, no, I think it's like
you're going to understand that they're going to talk about.
No, but that's not what I'm curious. Is maybe I don't know. Is there someone that's rooted in science that can talk about it? I don't know. But I think my point is
you're not giving me the benefit of the doubt when I
think my point is that you're so quick to discredit something without actually properly listening first. And what I'm saying is the reason why I'm doing that, even though I don't necessarily
what fun is
believe
it?
in
what fun is it? Or it ends
I
up
reckon
just being
like,
this.
well, I think it's like, I think that what you're saying is that based on how I approach things, I don't have an opinion. And my thing is, I have an opinion, but I'm also looking at like I'm trying to understand where that truth actually fits in. Because if we've discussed like anything in the last 2 years, it's that the opposite can also be true. And so what I'm trying to do is take the things that I normally believe. I've never been religious. I've never done anything like that. I chose to not be in religious education at school, sat out of RE. But what I'm also seeing is like, oh, you know what? Like in a time where there is huge amounts of devastation within the world, there's all this sort of stuff. Science is obviously important to be able to move society forward. But will science alone be the thing from a mental health point of view?
I mean, you're getting meta on it now. I think that you sort of looking and thinking it's a negative thing that I have an opinion on something that I might not completely understand. I think that it is a way to learn if you are open-minded to learning. And so I'm saying I have an opinion. Do I understand it completely? No. Am I up for learning about this more? Yes.
And I think
so
that gets missed potentially in the way that you deliver it.
I mean, what this is a podcast where we get to talk about stuff. And I think it'd be a fucking boring podcast if we just both never had an opinion or never got into these conversations. I don't think we would learn as much. I think you sort of take it all in until you really test it and sort of have rock solid thoughts on something, but then also understand that it can change.
Yeah.
And
I guess that's the point is like, you don't need to have like, do you need rock solid thoughts on everything? and where is
I don't think you do, but I think it's sometimes you can. And I know you have beliefs on shit that you don't always air. And I understand. No, I don't, but I understand.
No, like what?
Nothing negative, but I know that. I know you said you're thinking in your head, but you're more open to just exploring it until you have enough information.
No, so
but I think everyone is also like where does it sit with me?
But so
what do I believe here?
But I think like that's like delivering something like I'm hiding something.
No, you're not hiding anything. I think you said you're hiding something because you're listening. I have assumptions. And so, which is all I'm saying. And sometimes you don't air them because you're trying to explore it to understand more.
I don't communicate my assumptions as facts, and I don't aggressively say that's like I've got an assumption on this, so I'm going to go hard on that. I do think 2 or 3 times. I think, okay, like what is the filter? Like what are these elements? And I think that I do. If something doesn't sit right, I'll say, I disagree. I think like when we talked about the Reiki stuff, if you go back to early episodes, you were going hard on the Reiki, like all of those things, serving people and being great. And so what I find interesting is taking that approach for something like that and then discrediting something like this.
But you were doing the opposite too. You were saying
I was pushing against it to try and understand.
Or am I not doing that?
No, well, because
But you still had your opinion and belief, and so
I didn't say it was bullshit.
I'm open to it.
Yeah,
and I can say it's
great.
bullshit.
I think
that's the beauty of our time is you can say something's bullshit. It's just the problem lies when you are never open to ever changing your school of thinking or understanding.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of people who are saying, is it rooted in science? Like they listen to a Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
but this is the risk. The risk is you listen to some Joe Rogan or you listen to something and you've never never go to university, never do any of that stuff. Like where you learn science, like you got up to year 10 science, which is or year 11 or year 10 science, whatever it is, to then be the guy that is always arguing and using that seems like it's a little bit hard when we don't necessarily like I don't know, like when you say rooted in science, I'm like I actually I don't know all this stuff. I don't even like yes, there are like I will listen to professionals, I'll listen to what the 98% of the scientists are saying about climate change, all that sort of thing. I'm not saying that we should be discrediting science, but I'm just saying that when we're having other conversations around faith, going to science as the first thing potentially might stop a productive conversation around the complexities of how we are as humans and what we're doing in this world.
Then there is an element of that is denying of science. So then it's choosing when you are agreeing with science.
I don't think it's
optional at that point. Like, and then.
Well, so I think that it comes down to those multiple truths. And so it's like.
But then I think.
Do you think there is a single truth?
No, I mean, I answer to that. There is.
No, I don't.
There are things like gravity that is scientifically proven that you won't argue against. You're not going to argue against gravity. But so there are more specific things that are probably more single truths about our existence.
And then you listen to.
But then you're not challenging those. You're not saying, well, I'm open to understanding something different based on that. And so that's where I think that point about the science thing is you're saying I'm open to exploring even when science sort of proves it. It's like, well, there is other truths. And so that is a slippery slope in some respects going down that because then it's like, what the fuck do you believe? When do we believe
I think that's part of, and that's why you're so uncomfortable potentially is that if you're growing up wanting there to be one truth, if you're wanting to be like, and so if you're wanting to say, no, this is like the rational, this is the answer, this is the thing, like that, there is a real comfort in that.
I don't know how many people do that.
And so then if you grow up and you see your mum being Catholic and seeing how it served her, then I think that potentially you could empathize with the idea that even if it doesn't connect with a truth over here, there is another truth that is
you're saying
also
the benefits
serving.
of it. I know. I get what you're saying, but
And so I wonder from a mental health point of view, like people who do have faith and do, enter into these different things, for the most part, I think are happier. And so I do wonder that if we don't have any framework outside of rational thinking and science and all that sort of thing, if we don't have anything outside of that in regards to a spiritual thing, if we only look at meditation as chemicals and all that sort of thing rather than potentially allowing a more spiritual thing.
I think you can do both. I don't think it's one or the other. I definitely don't look at it as one or the other. And so, but I think you can have these conversations. I think people probably don't want to voice an opinion after they feel someone saying you don't even know you can't have an opinion. I think it's okay. Have these conversations with your mates.
And so saying like it's bullshit.
I'll still say it's bullshit. I can still say it's bullshit, but I'm open for a conversation around. And I don't think.
Do you
like
say
you're
that,
saying, if there's positivities in it for you, then is it good?
Do you say if you find out someone that you know is religious, do you call that out as bullshit? If you know that it's bullshit, do you say that's bullshit?
But then you're just saying that I'm a strict atheist. I don't and I don't think it's. I don't think it's as simple as that.
And
is
so
there elements of it? Is there elements of it
before,
like which I've spoken about, which is parts of the story of the Bible? It's like, do people really think that happened? Parting of the seas, water into wine, like all these things based on your understanding. Are you going to say that's not possible, or are you going to say that's possible from what you've experienced on this earth and understood?
Are they metaphors?
But people believe it, Josh.
And so that's your truth. So that's your point. Your point is that your concern is that this app people are taking as complete truth.
Strict truth, yeah.
But I think that, and so what I'm questioning, and the reason why I think we're not seeing eye to eye on it, is because there are multiple truths to everything.
And I don't think there's a conversation, but it doesn't really go anywhere if that's just your first and only thought.
And so it goes somewhere if you're
willing to look at it and going,
what would have made a better conversation for you?
No, I don't think it's making a better conversation. I think asking those, should someone let their life be determined by this app? Yes or no?
Well, but I think that's like, that goes against my fundamental belief.
Yeah.
But no, that's what, like, that is you're going into the rationalism questioning. And what I'm saying is what I'm saying is these are individual spiritual conversations that you can't, if you're using a toolkit which isn't designed for spirituality to try and understand spirituality. And that's where I feel like getting mixed up with it. And so you're saying you're not willing to use that toolkit. And I'm saying is because it's not like if you use that toolkit, it won't work. What do you think, Sevs, to finish up?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just go back to thinking the whole thing about the truths and like all the stuff. Even, I mean, I personally, my assumption is that none of that stuff happened in the Bible, but it doesn't matter what my truth is or the scientific truth, so long as people believe it and find, I guess, like comfort and positivity in it. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Anyone on Facebook saying that?
No, we had Austin join though, saying happy Monday, boys, and Ben saying morning, Gronks.
Morning.
Good morning. Hi at thedailytalkshow.com. I think if
you have an opinion, don't be that afraid to say something.
But also potentially
be open to learning.
Yeah, send us an email with any suggestions of people that we could get on that could potentially better, because obviously we can have these conversations.
But that's what we don't. Gronk's talking about complex shit.
And so I don't necessarily know what.
But I think this is how you start and explore and learn is by having a conversation with your mates about shit you don't understand and where you sit and where your belief system is,
and also
then questioning that.
Potential, like, would you say too that your personal growth over the past 2 years has been around initially having this response to parts of life that now you are a little bit more open to the possibilities?
I think it's a prime question where you've laid out the answer in the question.
It's a leading question.
It's a leading question. I think I'm more open to questioning what I think is truth, and I'm more open-minded to have conversations with people that aren't in the same thinking of me, and empowering other people who aren't of the same thought or thinking process as me to talk about that and be open to talking to other people. So I don't think it's as simple as I was different 2 years ago and wasn't open to talking about anything. I just am more understanding of other people have different ways of thinking.
Well,
and it doesn't land in the middle of like anything, you know. Because I don't have an opinion about anything. It's like it's wrong.
Well, because sometimes you don't know. Like, I guess just to finish off, like if someone has an experience, a spiritual experience through doing some form of ritual or whatever it is, they have something that happens and then they have an experience. If I haven't had that experience before, that doesn't mean that it's not real. If I can't explain it from a scientific point of view, it doesn't mean that it's not real. And so that's, I guess, the area that I'm playing in, which is like,
just be up for conversation. And if you're afraid to talk about your opinion or thoughts on something, it doesn't mean bash down the fucking hat. Like me creating a podcast talking about how bullshit star signs are with never talking to anyone else that disagrees with me. That's not productive.
Yeah.
But having a conversation with someone who is posing up a what if conversation is challenging, but I still don't think it gets us anywhere in terms of like where someone who is of the opposite thought and then seeing how those two conversations play out. So if there was someone here that was completely convinced and was on the other side, not saying, but maybe they are good, maybe it is good for some people, I think that's when you really see the polarization of the two sides, and you'd then be able to go, which one is it? What do I, maybe a bit more information now. So I'm up for having a conversation with somebody who is completely sold in every aspect of the Herald Sun's star sign guide, and you've been running your life for the last 17 years based on that. I'd like to have that conversation.
Great. All right, it's a Daily Talk Show.
We should get the guy on this time.
The writer.
Do you know who it is, Seps?
Yeah, he's famous. He's been doing it for years. He or she? I thought it was a he. I think it's a bald dude.
Anyway, we can.
Jonathan Kaner.
Thank you, Jonathan. All right, it's a Daily Talk Show. See you tomorrow, guys.
See you guys.